This is 5, and now we begin a night of sport to take us into Saturday morning, starting off with Football Night with John Barnes.
Coming up on Football Night, 4 weeks after Liverpool's Premiership defeat at Old Trafford, the Reds have a chance of revenge in the 5th round of the FA Cup at Anfield tomorrow. We hear from both camps ahead of the match and take a look at how both clubs are aiming to become number one once again. Bolton and Middlesbrough were flying the flag in this week's UEFA Cup round of 32. We've got the best of the action, and we'll take a look ahead to next week's Champions League ties, with the 4 remaining British teams resuming their bid for European glory after a 3-month break. Everyone loves a cup upset. We'll hear from the men of Colchester aiming to claim the biggest scalp of them all at runaway Premiership leaders Chelsea, and we'll also preview the rest of the 5th round ties. Hello and welcome to Football Night on 5. My guests tonight are Nevin and Rob Beasley. I'll be hearing from the boys in just a moment, but we start tonight with this weekend's FA Cup 5th round. The tie of the round is undoubtedly at Anfield, where Liverpool take on Manchester United. Both clubs are on transition as they attempt to compete with Chelsea and their millions, although history suggests that the good times could come again for these footballing giants. United, of course, have been the Premiership's most successful side, while my old club Liverpool dominated the game from the mid-70s to 1990. I saw the good and bad times at Anfield as our dominance faded, in part due to United's rise. So what now for the two clubs? Dylan Jane went to the northwest to find out.
I mean, obviously now Chelsea is seen as the dominant force, certainly domestically at the moment. I think we're all expecting them to retain their title this year, but once upon a time it was very different, and this football club was dominant during the 70s and the 80s, and they won an enormous amount of silverware, both in England and of course in Europe in those days.
I think what I have said, and it's down to the history of both clubs, is that when I come down here, Liverpool were the D team. There's no question about it. The record in the 80s was phenomenal. And if I was going to be successful, yeah, that was the one thing I had to do, was to get on top of Liverpool. And that's why it's a special game for me, because that was my target, that's what I achieved. And I don't forget these days when Liverpool were top and we were below them. Even although our record against them in individual matches was quite good, it still didn't compensate for the fact that Liverpool were the team. So I don't forget, and some of our fans may have forgotten, because we've maybe a lot of young fans that don't know these days, and that's why it's always a special game for me.
After 26 years they did it in 93 for the first time, as I say, a long time, and from then it kind of snowballed. They had won, before the title, they'd won the FA Cup. That was the one that set the glory road going, the League Cup, the Cup Winners' Cup, and then the title was the big one, and from then on the team gained so much belief, and there were winners in that team. You know, they won the double in 94, a second double in 96, another title in 97, the treble in 99, the famous treble in 99, wonderful treble in 99, and you know, a few more titles after that as well.
It was 1898 that Liverpool first played Manchester United in the FA Cup. 108 years later, the score reads Liverpool 2, Manchester United 8. In a tie steeped in rivalry and tradition, it's 85 years since the Merseysiders overcame the Mancunians in the Cup, a statistic they are keen to overturn.
Okay, we played against them in the league a few weeks ago, and I think that everybody's waiting or expecting a fantastic game. It will be difficult, because all the games that we play against them are really tough, and the last game was the same. And it's a cup tie. Then in the cup, you know, everything can happen. When the statistics go forward, sometimes they will finish, and then maybe tomorrow we will change the statistics and we will start winning the next games against Manchester United.
Liverpool obviously haven't beaten Manchester United in the FA Cup for a long time now, but they have beaten them in other competitions. I think they were unlucky to lose against them in the Premier League. They should have at least drawn that game and probably have won it. They came away losing it to Rio Ferdinand's late header. But yeah, I mean, you know, beating them in the FA Cup would be ever so sweet, particularly after that late winner that Ferdinand scored, as I say, and Mr Neville got up to his antics on the pitch celebrating that goal the way he did.
Oh yeah, I think there'll be cakes and party poppers and a bit of champagne for him for Gary Neville's birthday. No, seriously, I mean, he's going to get abuse, verbal abuse. He would have got that anyway. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and the Manchester United fans remind the Liverpool fans of that anyway, even if Gary would like to try and keep it quiet at times.
There's been too much made of it, but in the modern day journalism, that's what happens, you know, and obviously with the games have been so near the last time, then obviously there's a big focus on celebrating that goal. I think all players celebrate. As I said, Steven Gerrard celebrated it exactly a similar way against Everton in the derby game. Fowler did exactly the same thing in our derby game with Manchester City. So players celebrate emotionally quite a lot.
The incident with Gary Neville has highlighted the passion and the rivalry between these two northwestern giants, but both managers are certain they want the football to do the talking.
No, I think that they know that it's important to talk on the pitch. No, it's, the most important thing for me is that at the end of the game, people talk about how we play, how they play, how we score, how they miss goals or things like this, and talk about football and not talk about celebrations or things like this. And we will try to do all the things for avoid these things. How? Scoring goals and don't concede goals. It would be easier.
But in fairness to both clubs, of taking these things apart, there's always been a reasonable atmosphere among the players. There's never really, I can't remember it boiling over the way that, as you made the point about Arsenal games, it's never got as anything like that. And maybe it's because both clubs have had a respect for one another, and they know it's the biggest derby game in the country, and they know historically that both clubs have always competed with each other for a long, long time. And you look at the record of the trophies that both clubs have won between each other. I think someone made the point today that we've won 17 FA Cups between us, you know. And then, of course, their success in Europe and both successes in winning the championships. It's quite phenomenal.
With news this week that United have fallen from the #1 position in the world's football rich list, and Liverpool looking set to go another season without winning the Premiership, the high expectations of both clubs need to be met.
I think it's going to be difficult for anyone to dominate well, as everybody knows, while Chelsea are around. I mean, they really have put their marker down. And I think, you know, I think they're going to have a sustained period as long as Mr. Abramovich stays around there. I think they're going to have a sustained period of success. I think we've all got to accept that. Some, you know, anti-United fans would say, you know, you're getting a taste of your own medicine because that is what you were like in the 90s. You had the money and you spent the money. Well, there is an element of that, certainly. But I think this team in a couple of years' time will be a lot stronger opposition to Chelsea than they are at the moment. And let's face it, at the moment they're second in the league, so they're the strongest opposition now. I think when they get a little bit of maturity, more maturity, a bit more togetherness after a period of time, I think they'll be really breathing down Chelsea's neck.
Rafael Benitez is already a Liverpool great as a manager. It seems strange to say that in just 18 months of tenure, but of course, you know, that night in Istanbul, that European Cup campaign alone has secured his status here. But you know, Liverpool are a work in progress under Rafael Benitez. There's an awful lot more yet to do. There's an awful lot of ambition at this football club. It didn't end that night in Istanbul by any means, and Benitez constantly reminds his players of that. Not that many of them need any reminding. The fans are desperate for supremacy, not only against the likes of Manchester United over a league campaign as well as in an FA Cup campaign. They are desperate to take on the Chelseas of this world. For all their money, you know, Liverpool have got attributes and a history which Chelsea can only yet aspire to. And Liverpool want to take the fight to Manchester United, to the Arsenals and certainly to Chelsea. Rafael Benitez is certainly the man to lead them in that charge, and you know, it's going to be fascinating to watch where he can take the team in the future, as well as where he's recently been in the past with them.
Well, gentlemen, Rafa Benitez says that he wants the football to be the most important thing. Chances and goals, but the papers are full of it. For the lunchtime kickoff tomorrow in Saturday's papers, you've got passion killers, which nothing to do with underwear, I shouldn't imagine. Talking about Gary Neville's celebration. Behave, Sir Alex and Rafa join forces and plead to players for calm. And Rue will love hate mob, saying that he would be quite happy because Gary Neville will get a more stick than him. Possibly, who knows. But it's an interesting piece because these are two footballing giants and two of the biggest clubs in the country, and Chelsea, you always get a feeling that you know they're talking about Chelsea when they talk about, you know, the demise or we're going through a transitional period. I mean, Chelsea really has affected the big boys.
It is an incredible situation. But this is one of the great fixtures, and the fact that it's in the FA Cup, you know, a sudden death knockout, it's got to be sort of the team is going to go out of the FA Cup, and it's just a great trophy for both these teams. They can't win the league, we all know that. So this is a prize, especially for Manchester United who are out of the Champions League. This is a big prize that they can still win. So they're going to be going for it. And you've got to pay tribute to Rafa Benitez and the revelation that he's brought about at Liverpool in so quick a time. He is definitely the man who is going to make Liverpool a force again. I think next season, with some astute buys in the summer, they will push even closer to Chelsea. I expect Manchester United to buy again in the summer and push closer to Chelsea. But again, Chelsea will buy, so they might push away.
Well, Manchester, Sir Alex was talking about, you know, the rivalry when he first came down between Manchester United and Liverpool, and it was a good few years before they actually were able to dominate Liverpool. But I think that he has a strong respect for Liverpool because you mentioned the fact that, you know, the players get on well. There's not the same animosity between Manchester United and Liverpool as Manchester United and Chelsea.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, and Arsenal.
And Arsenal, definitely. I mean, I've written down here, respect, that was what I was going to say. They were trying to put a lot of respect across there between the two clubs. And yeah, they have got that respect between each other. But part of the problem is that, you know, Liverpool haven't got the hatred towards their local neighbours Everton. You know, there's a bit of, you know, antagonism now and again, but there isn't the real hatred you get with Celtic versus Rangers or something like that, or Arsenal, Tottenham.
Although the fans, Manchester United and Liverpool fans, really have that animosity.
That's where it comes from, and it's the two clubs that are that close to each other. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be tension there. There was a headline that you just showed there, passion killers. They can't kill the passion in this game. No chance. Doesn't matter who tries to do it, how hard they have to change it. They won't happen because
they won't kill the passion between the fans. But I think Liverpool have got a way of playing at the moment where they do kill the passion in the game to a great extent. They're not the most exciting teams. In fact, they're one of the teams that you don't particularly want to go and see because you know what you're going to see. Strong defensively, hard working in midfield. They've got no real cutting edge up front. And it's always going to be a very, very disciplined, organised Liverpool.
That is a Rafa Benitez team. He did it at Valencia and he's doing it at Liverpool.
But they're not exciting, are they?
Well, I think he'll take him time to then get, because of course he started from a base.
I think that's harsh on them really, because Morientes would have been a great buy if he would have been the player he was. But it hasn't worked for him at all. When he gets a striker that he can trust to get in those 20-odd goals a season, that's going to be a good side, because I think they are great defensively. I think they are very good midfield,
and they're playing more creative football this year than they have done in the past.
You've got to say
they haven't got the cutting edge of maybe a Michael Owen or Robbie Fowler in the old days.
It's a work in progress. We're talking about works in progress here, but works in progress, you can see it with Liverpool, and I think they're actually going forward really well. However, I'm not convinced that Manchester United is as clear and obvious a work in progress, because they've got problems in midfield, they've got problems at the back as well, where they are strong as up front, which will make it from an interesting...
Well, it's a Liverpool work in progress, and if we have a look at how they've done since the Premiership started, it's astonishing. Because, I mean, I was there at the time, and I didn't realise that, you know, there are times... I should have, because I was actually there, that we're actually finishing 6th and 8th and 4th. I mean, I just thought we're Liverpool, so we've got to be... Because people just automatically assume Liverpool were one of the top 3 teams. And although you could argue that they were one of the top 3 teams, they were still finishing in the early days, sometimes 6th, sometimes 7th. You know, it was amazing.
It's actually, I'm stunned by those figures. I'm totally amazed by them, because you totally expect that Liverpool... I mean, Manchester United are quite incredible in comparison to it, because Manchester United, I mean, they have just stayed there. Since Sir Alex they finally got themselves in a position, win it the first year, they have been the Premiership
First and
side,
second all the way through, apart from 2 years where they finished 3rd. But it's just, you see, but what we're saying is that because we're talking about the advent of the Premier League, yeah, but the old First Division has been, the history goes on, and it just goes through cycles. And football is like that, whereby Liverpool in the last 10 years possibly, you know, have fallen away. Manchester United have been the top team. Now you look at Arsenal this season, for example, and Chelsea in this 1 year. So that's the way football goes.
There's no surprise that when Liverpool were the richest club in the land, bankrolled by the Littlewoods Corporation, they were successful. Manchester United became the richest club in the land. They were successful. Now Chelsea, bankrolled by Abramovich, they're the richest club in the land, and they're having success. There's no coincidence that the richest club in the land normally succeeds
Well,
better
you may
than
say
everyone
that,
else.
but the richest club in the world at the moment, Real Madrid, haven't won a trophy for 2 years. So,
Well, they've got a different philosophy, haven't they? They said,
you know, because you can see here,
we're going to put on a circus
you can see
show.
here the annual income for the richest clubs and Real Madrid. But one thing I would say about that for Real Madrid and Manchester United is that while we know, you know, because of once the commercial deals now come into play, you talk about Real Madrid being the richest club in the world without having much success. I don't think they can go another 2-3 years without success and stay there.
There's one factor why Real Madrid are the richest club in the world, and it's David Beckham. He sells more shirts at Real Madrid than even Ronaldo. All the other players put together, he sells more
understand that,
shirts.
but I think a big factor is the fact that Real Madrid still have the history of being the big European champions. Because I remember I had a chance of going to Real Madrid in the late 80s, and I didn't even want to go to Real Madrid because in the 80s they did nothing. So, you know, people remember Real Madrid from obviously the 50s, and people remember Real Madrid from the late 1990s and 2000s. But another 2 years of Real Madrid winning nothing, that won't be that way.
Don't lose the fact that, OK, Manchester United have fallen off it, but they'll be back again very, very soon because they've got the new seats, which are going to be ready by March. So that's going to make a big difference to them. And the other thing is, I suspect they'll be back in Champions League football next season and playing at a decent level. So they will be back above Real Madrid. I'm pretty sure of that.
Well, if we have a look at the top of the Premiership, Manchester United and Liverpool, it's strange to see Arsenal where they are, but they both still are a long way off Chelsea. Although, I mean, Chelsea haven't had a blip, but it's encouraging. Last week was encouraging. I don't even want to mention last week, Rob, but it was encouraging for the rest of football.
Well, it's astonishing. I've been down to Chelsea today to see Mourinho, and he was far from impressed by the performance at Middlesbrough, and has made his point known to the players and told them in no uncertain terms that they better improve against Colchester or heads will roll. I think.
Well, of course, because they play Colchester tomorrow, but the big game tomorrow at lunchtime is Liverpool versus Manchester United. And as we saw in the piece also, Manchester United probably have the edge. Always, since my time, had the edge in one-to-ones, because even when Liverpool were winning the league, Manchester United always had better results against Liverpool. So, you know, I expect Liverpool to win tomorrow. I'm from Liverpool, obviously, and I'm a Liverpool man, but how do you think this is going to go?
Well, I actually think, if you look at it, you think that all the flair in it and the players who are capable on their own of winning a match are probably Steve Gerrard apart, all play for Manchester United. You know, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Wayne Rooney, Ronaldo, people like that. But this game is going to be incredibly tight. There's not going to be a free-flowing, action-packed match, I don't think. It'll be full of passion and tackles and desire, but I don't think it's going to be free-flowing, action-packed. It's going to be close, just like the last game was, and it's going to take one little bit of magic, one mistake, and I just think Man United have got the edge.
Home, big advantage. Huge advantage in a game like this, and I think that might help a little bit. But I look at two statistics that are interested me. Top goal scorers. Top goal scorer for Liverpool just now is a midfielder, Steven Gerrard, with 16. Van Nistelrooy's up there with 22. That might make all the difference. You never know.
Do you think there's too much pressure on Steven Gerrard to always
absolutely
not rescue Liverpool, but to push them forward?
That's what brings it into balance again. You know, the home makes a big difference, but the fact that they are scores, I think it's an intriguing one. It's really, really tight. This could go to a replay.
Well, another old Premiership tie, Aston Villa and Manchester City. I won't say resurgent, but Aston Villa have really been doing, apart from Newcastle, but they've picked up. Stuart Pearce talk about, you know, possible England manager. Manchester City doing well this season. How do you see this one?
I think Villa have been a bit Jekyll and Hyde, but I think this will be an open football match. Unlike the Liverpool-Man United one, this will be a game where there'll be chances at either end. Manchester City certainly try and win every match they go out to, and I think David O'Leary's got that same sort of philosophy. Let's go and try and win it. So I think it could be, you know, fairly high scoring game.
Of course, Luke Moore has been scoring a few goals for Aston Villa, and they have picked up, although they had a bad result against Newcastle, they create chances.
I'm still looking at the league position. I still think they're a bit of a nothing season for them in many ways. I think a big difference for City, they've got Ben Thatcher and Mills possibly back as well. Barton in great form. But everyone's saying what a good season Manchester City are having. Stuart Pearce going for assistant manager, and good on you, Stuart. They're 1 point ahead of Everton, who apparently have had a dreadful season. So keep it, you know, in perspective, I think. But tight one, I would still go for Man City in that one.
Well, Newcastle against Southampton, Rob. A third win in a row, possibly for Schroeder and Shearer playing against his old team. Southampton struggling. Newcastle, we won't say turning the corner because they've only been 2 games since, but this should be a comfortable win for Newcastle.
You wouldn't put your mortgage on it because it's Newcastle at the moment, but if there's a banker, it's got to be Newcastle at home to Southampton. They'll win that one.
Big help for Shearer. I think it was a monkey off his back, scoring that goal that finally took him above Jackie Milburn. So that monkey off his back was a great help. But if you look at Southampton's record recently, since George Burley had a great time up in Scotland when he was with Hearts, since he's come down, I think 1 win in the last 11 games in the Championship. It's not good enough.
Well, good luck to them all tomorrow, especially Liverpool. Well, time for a quick break, but when we come back, we reflect on this week's UEFA Cup games, next week's Champions League ties, and preview the rest of the FA Cup action.
This is missed that were very, very good, and by a number of penalty decisions that seem to have gone against us tonight, and it appears that it's not just 1 or 2, it could have possibly been even 3, but it would be impossible to get 3 penalties in one game for you, I think, but at least 2 would have been, I think, fair, and you've still got to score them, but I think that would have given us a magnificent result to go to Marseille with, and we should at least, like I said, be going to there 1-0 up, if not 2-0 up, and sadly it's 0-0 and going to be very difficult for us now. I think it makes us go and be very cautious in the first 15 or 20 minutes to try and weather the storm, which will obviously come our way via the atmosphere of the fans, and the players going to go all out to try and get the first goal to settle their nerves, and if we can withstand that and then play our way into the game, we could easily get a goal off a break or off a set play.
Well, the action never stops, of course. Another big cup tie at the weekend as well. It's a whole week of cup football for you. What are your thoughts on West Ham?
Well, 7 on the trot they've won now, 5 in the Premiership and 7 in all competitions. A magnificent run for Alan and his team, and of course, you know, we're on a good run ourselves, but we're drawing too many matches at the moment. You know, that's our 4th draw on the trot now, and we've got to make sure on Saturday when we finish here at the Reebok Stadium that we've got a goal to win it in our favour and get through to the 6th round. A draw for us would be the last thing that we really want because of the amount of games that we've got. So all out to win here at the Reebok on Saturday, and hopefully we can do that.
Don't forget, you can see the second leg over in Marseille next Thursday, 7:15, live here on 5. Bit of a shame, that game, because really it's going to be difficult for them over there, but they should have had 2 opportunities to score from the penalty spot, at least 2, because there were 2 clear-cut penalties.
At the very least 2. There was a couple as well where the goalkeeper Bartes comes out and he nowhere near the ball, and so the referee, I don't want to suggest any underhand goings on, but he was never going to give a penalty, just as Terry Butcher said there. But don't also take out the fact that great first half there by Bolton, but the boy Niang, with his pace, caused them all sorts of problems through the middle, so that's a real concern.
Well, if we move ahead to next week over in France, of course, Niang is going to be, you know, there, but the good thing about it is that it's a 0-0 draw, so if Bolton score, Marseille will have to score 2. So, you know, all isn't lost.
No, and I think Sam's absolutely right. They're going to have to expect a battering from the off, weather that, and then see if they can nick that goal and hold on. It's not all over. At this stage in European competition, the matches hinge on the odd goal. Nobody's going to win 3 or 4-0 in these matches because the teams are so evenly matched, and I think Bolton is still in there.
Sam, it would be a disaster for them if it had been 1-1. 0-0 isn't a disaster.
Well, they've got another cup tie, albeit the FA Cup, against the form team of the country, West Ham United, and as Sam says, won 7 in a row, and it's going to be a difficult game because West Ham really are on fire. And if you look at the top goal scorer, Marlon Harewood, the 2 key men for us would be Kevin Nolan, who is also Bolton's top goal scorer, and Nigel Reo-Coker, who's been sensational this year.
But you see, West Ham's 6th in the table, 7 wins on the trot. Nobody's mentioned Englishman Alan Pardew for the England job. Stuart Pearce gets a mention lower down the table. Sam Allardyce, 2 places below, gets a mention. Nobody mentions Alan Pardew. I think that's amazing, you know. What it's not unfair to Steve Coppell to say that he helped bed down what's happening at Reading as well. Then he gets West Ham promoted, and now he's got them in the top 6 of the Premiership, and everybody's disregarding him for the
and not only that, he has them playing good football, and it's going to be contrasting styles against Bolton, because Bolton will be very similar to the other night, lots of long throws, lots of corners, and West Ham will try and play.
I think what Bolton will not want is too much similarity to the other night, because Harewood, with his pace, very much like Niang, going through the centre of Bolton's defence, that's a serious problem for him. And I think Harewood's, obviously Harewood's finishing is better than Niang's.
But it's going to be difficult for the West Ham centre-backs, young centre-backs, Anton Ferdinand, because, of course, you know, there are going to be lots of long throws, lots of corners. So as much as we're looking at Reo-Coker and Nolan, I think that he could be key in this game.
Funny enough, watching that game as well, Juffy not being there, funnily enough, they miss him. Even though those long balls, and that's the way the power plays that Sam's team, they can play good football as well now and again, but those long throws, those corners at the end, that barrage of power plays that they did for the first 30 minutes in the last game there during the week. However, There were no goals scored from it, remember.
Well, if Anton was watching the marking by Dehu, and there were also possible penalty incidents because they were also holding on to him, and of course, Anton, and I think in the English league, penalties would be given if Anton is going to play that way, the way Dehu played against Davis.
I think Big Sam felt that Barthez was a weakness. Everything was hammered in towards that 6-yard box, tempting Barthez to come out to make a mistake. So really, a lot of the English goalkeepers are more confident to come out and deal with that sort of thing. So maybe it's going to be slightly harder for them to do. But it'll be a good game. Totally, as you say, different styles. But I think Bolton, maybe the tiredness from during the week, they put a huge amount of effort back in there. So I think I would probably just go for West Ham to keep the run going.
Yeah, I'm going West Ham.
Okay. Well, moving on to Middlesbrough now. And last night, they were in Germany to take on VfB Stuttgart in their own last 32 first leg match. John Helm was in the hot seat once again, this time with Gary Pallister.
Flint, and that's what the team were. You get very few chances, but we got players capable of scoring goals. If we defend well, we'll win football matches, as we did tonight.
And of course, the last two performances, results, but more importantly, performances should go a long way to alleviate some of the pressure, I should imagine.
I think that's the last 5 games, we've won 4 of them. You know, the last 3 we've won on the bounce. We need them in the Premier League, that would be a help, but we're doing well in the Cups and we want to do well in this. We feel we can. There's still a long way to go in this tie. We have to finish it off next Thursday.
And of course, what also helps is having a fantastic chairman, as you have had to be supportive all the way through.
Yeah, that's right, and rightly so. You know, the club's going forward, and you know, we had a team full of kids on the bench to bring on, so the future's bright. We're doing well in Europe. You know, 2 years on the bounce we've been here. We want to go a little bit further this season, but we've still got a long way to go in this tie.
Well, we mentioned the effect that Chelsea had on, negative effect that Chelsea have on Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester United, but the positive effect they had on Middlesbrough when Middlesbrough beat them 3-0. So to go, Middlesbrough have been struggling, then after beating Chelsea they go to Stuttgart and comprehensively win. It was a great performance.
Yeah, terrific result, and they've done it 3 wins in a row now. After a really poor season by Middlesbrough standards, you look at Middlesbrough now, they're solid in the Premiership, and we've all been expecting them to push on and solidify themselves in the top 10 or something. And for some reason this season it just hasn't happened. They've not got the formula right up front. He's played Viduka, he's played Hasselbank in and out. Nobody's got a run going, and they've struggled in the Premiership. But it looks like they're getting a little bit of run together at a key time of the season. It could be.
And they would have been bemoaning their luck in terms of injuries and what have you. But last night, the first goal, they had a huge slice of luck with the first goal, and there must be a wry smile on his face.
I have to be brutally honest here. I'm not surprised they've struggled this year. I've seen a lot of Middlesbrough this year, and they have been woeful on occasion, on quite a lot of occasions. Their fans will tell you they've had a really tough time. But last night they went for it. They've done well. Davis was superb at the back. Southgate was magnificent, and there were a lot of really good players. They have got a problem though. They have got a real problem, because I think they're going to get tired now. That was a heavy pitch the other night. They've travelled European football. We don't know which Middlesbrough's going to turn up. We've had the great Middlesbrough for a couple of weeks now. You might get the hopeless lot come out next week. You never actually know. But
even with the hopeless lot next week, 2-1 away should be enough to see them through.
I think, funnily enough, I think they're going to get through. I don't think Stuttgart's going to be a problem, but I think Preston's going to be a problem. I think Preston's going to be a much bigger problem.
And of course, that's the FA Cup match coming up, and Preston are unbeaten since September.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched a little bit of them. Also, I know Billy Davis very well from the time at Motherwell with him. Went up to see him last week. Really pleased with his team. Get a great spirit there. Interested in the way he's working with video with the players. He does it all himself. None of this Sam stuff with his millions of pounds to spend on it. But I think this is the surprise waiting to happen.
But if you had looked at this tie maybe 2 weeks ago before the last 2 Middlesbrough results, but Middlesbrough have picked up. You still do fancy Preston.
It's keeping yourself at that level. Middlesbrough keeping themselves at that level for a good period of time. They've not done it this season, so well done getting this far. I mean, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank the other night, what a power of work he put in. You know, he did, honestly, I'm not joking, he did. He worked his socks off. However, asking him to do that again, I think he'd probably bring Yakubu in for this one. But even so, I think this is a real tough one for, and I wouldn't be surprised. Nugent's done very well. Billy Davis managed to hold him onto him there in the transfer window. I think Everton were in for him. Yeah. The fact that he's held on for him, he's the top goal scorer for them. I think that's given them a huge lift.
It's no real surprise that the re-emergence, shall we say, of Borough has coincided with Boateng coming back to fitness and Stuart Downing, who I think still has a slight hope of making the World Cup, possibly late, but he has been a big new, not a signing because he's been there, but
Yeah.
you know, a new player really
they're
coming back to
quality
Borough.
players, they're seasoned players, and Downing gives them an extra dimension right on. And I saw Middlesbrough at Nuneaton Borough, and I'm adamant that Nuneaton Borough should have won that game. But Middlesbrough came through it. And I just think that that's one of those games where we could have gone out to some minnows, we came through it, now they're starting to get a head of steam up, and I'm going to disagree with Pat. I think that Middlesbrough will win that one, even though pressing on a good run.
Well, next week, Champions League's back after a 3-month absence, and this is the real Champions League as far as I'm concerned, because it's now the knockout phases. Never mind this league format, the knockout phases and some big teams. And look at the fixtures there. And of course, 4 of the British teams are involved. If we start with Benfica against the champions, Liverpool. Benfica are doing quite well in their domestic league, but that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, well, Benfica, don't write them off. Everybody's thinking, yeah, that's fine, you know, we'll come through on that one. But they will not roll over easily. That is a tough tie. At this stage, as I said before about the other European games, nobody's going to roll anybody over. These are quality teams with quality players, all capable of winning. I think Benfica will lose, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be close.
Doesn't matter how close it is, mate. It's a cup match. As long as they lose, that's all we
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
And of course, they're away first. Do you think that that's an advantage to Liverpool?
Put the words out of my mouth. Huge advantage for Liverpool because I think they'll go there. I mean, the manager Benitez, he knows this like the back of his hand. He'll get them. He'll give absolutely nothing away, and hopefully to sneak a goal. And I really do fancy Liverpool very strongly to get through this one. Very strongly indeed.
Well, the tie of the round for me and for most people, Chelsea versus Barcelona, and Chelsea are at home. Your team at home first. I have a theory about this pitch of Chelsea's, because people are talking about the fact that wouldn't Chelsea want a nice pitch because then they can play their football with the players they have. And I remember Brazilian players, the pitches in Brazil are really, really bad. So when they come onto good pitches, of course their control is good. But if you've got good players with good control, you can play on a bad pitch. Yeah. Whereas if you're not that good, you can't play on a bad pitch. So it's surprising. So do you think that Chelsea are at home first? You think they're quite happy with the pitch the way it is?
I mean, Barcelona have been trying to say that Chelsea have deliberately left this pitch to be a potato field because it will favour them, because Barcelona are the footballing team and Chelsea, you know, just want to lump it. Well, Chelsea have got, you know, Lampard likes to pass it and run with it, Duff, Cole, Robin. These are all flair players who want a good pitch to play on. But Chelsea have played well on a bad pitch, whereas I'm not sure Barcelona will be used to it. They're used to playing on a nice pitch in a European climate where it's all going to be good.
Well, of
so
course.
I think it could work to Chelsea's advantage.
Would Chelsea have known? The pitch has been bad for a long time. Would they have known that they were going to get Barcelona anyway, so just in case.
I see that there are a lot of bad pitches around this year. I don't know why it is. It's been a particularly difficult winter for a lot of the clubs. However, I don't actually think the pitch is going to make that much of a difference. I think there are a lot of quality players on show that will, as you say, grow above it. Although, funnily enough, Chelsea, I watched them up at Sunderland. They didn't cope with the pitch up there, and it was dreadful. So maybe, you know, who knows? But
they like their own bad pitch.
Yeah, exactly. But looking, I mean, Eto'o's back now. I mean, Barcelona have struggled a wee bit, as Chelsea have the last wee while. So get that, but they're both getting themselves ready for it. Eto'o's back, Ronaldinho's back. Messi, let's be honest, he's top quality.
Well, give us a winner. Give us a winner over the 2 legs. Never mind the second leg, first leg. Over the 2 legs. Do I need to ask?
No,
either of you.
You don't.
Do I need to ask you as well?
This is Chelsea.
We are Chelsea. Well, Real Madrid, Arsenal. Arsenal away first, and we have to say that they have been struggling. Real Madrid have picked up.
Shocking away form, Arsenal. Absolutely unbelievable to think that Arsenal have lost so many games away from home this season. It is beyond belief. And that doesn't fill you with a great deal of confidence for them going to Real Madrid. But I just think that Arsenal can pull something out of the fire. I don't know why. It's not logical, because the way you look at them and the problems that they've got.
Here's a very good reason for you. Thierry and Henry will want to show up in front of the Spaniards, so he'll play well.
But can he do it on his own? That's the only thing.
Well, Rangers, Villarreal, the last of the British teams in there, and I have a lot of sympathy for Alex McLeish. I know what it's like, a beleaguered old firm manager, and he has retained his dignity immensely throughout the whole situation. Can they go through this time?
Yes, they can go through this time. They actually had 10 games in a row after a stinking start to the season where they didn't lose and they looked like a team again. And then they come up against Hibs 2 weeks ago. I've been at the last 2 Rangers games and they were well thrashed by Hibs, 3-0 at home. And that's when the trouble started for them again. And they went to play Celtic and it was the most awful game, and Celtic played within themselves. Keano ran it. So before those 2 games, I'd have said Rangers are in with the right chance. After those 2 games, I think it's a struggle.
Well, it's going to be fantastic. We've been missing it for 3 months. Well, time for another quick break now. But when we come back, we'll talk to the men at Colchester and how they are hoping to upset the Kings of Chelsea on Sunday. And if you find yourself at Layer Road later on in the season, here's all you need to know.
For Colchester, take the A12 and then head down the Essex Yeomanry Way, from which the ground is just a couple of miles away. Colchester is Britain's oldest town with a long and colourful history. For its football team, Layer Road is where Colchester United's fortunes have been played out since the club's formation in 1937. The stadium has a capacity of just over 6,000, making it the smallest in League One. But in 2007, the club intends to move to a 10,000 capacity stadium at the Cuckoo Farm development just off the A12. But for now, the best pubs for a pre-match pint are to be found in Butt Road and Layer Road itself. A warm welcome from the locals can be expected, especially if you say you're a friend of Queen Boudica, who led a bloody rebellion against Colchester's Roman rulers in AD 61.
Welcome back to Football Night. More on the FA Cup in just a moment when Julie Parker caught up with Colchester camp ahead of their dream tie with Chelsea. But first, here are this weekend's league fixtures.
The weekend's only Premiership match sees fourth place Tottenham trying to underline their Champions League credentials as they take on Wigan, who are 9th at White Hart Lane on Sunday. In the Coca-Cola Championship, Watford will look to bounce back from the disappointment of their midweek defeat at Ellen Road as they visit a Brighton team reeling after 3 successive defeats, while Leeds, who are now 3rd, face a tricky trip to Leicester City, who are resurgent under new manager Rob Kelly. It's the South London derby at the New Den, where playoff hopefuls Crystal Palace will hope to pile more misery on a Millwall team without a win in their last 6 championship matches. And it's the Steel City derby in Sheffield this weekend, with relegation-threatened Wednesday hoping to avenge their 1-0 defeat at the hands of second-place United earlier in the season when the two meet at Hillsborough.
League One leaders Southend, who lost their 13-match unbeaten run at Brentford this week, will face a stern challenge away at Chesterfield. Gary Megson's 13-month reign as Nottingham Forest manager came to an end yesterday after just 1 win in 10 games and an alarming slide down the table to just 4 points above the relegation zone. Forest's post-Megson era begins at Port Vale. Kenny Jackett will hope his promotion-chasing Swansea team respond to their disappointing midweek draw against Bradford for the visit to Scunthorpe. And second from bottom Rotherham travel to Swindon in high spirits, having recorded their first win of 2006 against Bournemouth on Tuesday night. League Two kicks off this weekend with newly installed leaders Wycombe travelling to Boston. And John Gannon's fast-improving Stockport have moved out of the relegation places and will hope for further success at Bristol Rovers. Third place Carlisle United take on bottom-of-the-table Rushden and Diamonds, while managerless Peterborough will hope to continue their promotion push. They face Notts County, who've lost their last 3. And second place Grimsby, who've offered manager Russell Slade an extended deal, travel to a Rochdale side who've won just once in 11.
With Celtic enjoying a 13-point lead at the top of the SPL, troubled Hearts desperately need a win over Motherwell to keep their fading title dreams alive. Following Paul Lambert's resignation, John Robertson was appointed boss of basement club Livingston this week. The former Hearts and Cali Thistle manager takes charge of his first game away to Kilmarnock. Rangers will be anxious to avenge the 2 stunning 3-0 victories Hibernian have already recorded at Ibrox this season when the two meet again in Glasgow. Then, on Sunday, Celtic will take another step closer to a 40th championship if they beat Dunfermline. Back to the FA Cup now, and it's 35 years since Colchester United caused one of the biggest upsets of all time when they dumped Don Revie's league champions Leeds United out of the competition. We sent Julie Parker to Layer Road ahead of this Sunday's 5th round tie against the current champions to see if history can be repeated.
Britain became a Roman province in 43 AD when Rome took control of the southeast of England and its capital Camalodunum. That place is better known today as Colchester.
These reminders of that occupation remain the town's greatest claim to fame. However, on Sunday, and Colchester United will have the chance to put the town back on the map when they take on a Roman army of a different sort in Abramovich's mighty gladiators.
It's two teams right at the opposite end of the spectrum, you know, Chelsea with all the money and finances, and, you know, we're going down there with a team of either homegrown players or free transfers, bar one. And you couldn't get two more contrasting clubs than Chelsea and Colchester at the moment.
They're such high-profile players, you know what I mean? We see them on the telly in adverts, you know what I mean? So when you see them, it's sort of, you do get a bit like starstruck. But as I say, once that whistle goes, you know what I mean, all that's out the window. It's about the ball on the pitch, you know what I mean? And you've got just as much right to kick that ball as they have.
Unlike their opponents, Colchester's team has been put together on a shoestring for a mere £15,000. And the £1 million that the cup match will generate will go a long way at this small Essex club, not least towards the development of their new planned stadium.
We're hoping this added exposure is going to push the local council into helping us get the new ground. It is exciting times for the club, and you know, we've got to make sure we capitalise on all this exposure we've been given recently, and all those extra fans who probably haven't come over the last few years, you know, and the ones who have come recently. Hopefully we can keep them.
The dream tie also gives Parkinson's young side a chance to pit themselves against the game's elite.
I have to keep saying it's Frank Lampard, you know what I mean, because I think he's an absolutely awesome player, and he's someone who I try and learn off all the time. Every time I watch him play, you know what I mean, he scores goals from midfield, and he's probably been helping me through my career, because obviously I look to try and improve my game, and I look at players like Frank Lampard.
The League One club have already seen off Championship sides Sheffield United and Derby in the Cup, with midfielder Dan scoring 3 of the 5 goals.
If it was to score against Chelsea, it'd just be unbelievable, do you know what I mean? It'd have to probably be the best achievement so far in my career, because, as I say, there's such a good side that even just to score a goal, it's a great achievement against them.
FA Cup aside, Colchester's league form sees them in second position and on course for a promotion to the Championship for the first time in the club's history.
We're probably shooting above where we should be to survive at this level. So to go to the next division would be a great achievement from everybody at the club. But there's a long way to go before we can start talking about that.
It's a fairy tale story, do you know what I mean? There's some clubs out there that are getting 20, like the likes of Nottingham Forest, not getting 20,000 every game. We've got 6,000, so obviously we've got a tight budget, and that's all credit to the backroom staff. You know what I mean? The chairman, the gaffer, everyone involved in the club, because that's all what this is for. And if we was to get promoted this season, I think it'd be such an achievement for a club like Colchester.
The U's go into Sunday's game on the back of 20 wins out of 22 games in all competitions. But whatever the outcome, Colchester United are certainly the talk of the town.
I've never known in my career the buzz around a town like we've had. You know, people were pitching tents outside the ground to queue up for tickets, and I think that says it all.
Well, Rob, it's a lovely story. £15,000 they've spent on one player, and everyone else either homegrown or free transfer, and you know they're doing fantastically well. If this tie was the other way around at Colchester, could we see an upset?
Oh, it'd be a very tricky one. I think it still will be tricky, because they'll go there with every confidence. They've got nothing to lose. It's, as the guy was saying, it's a fairy tale for them, so let's go and enjoy it. That's got to be their approach to it. Go out and play your football. They're playing well. They're winning games. There's no reason why they shouldn't go there confident and try and have a great day.
And Gallas and Terry are both suspended. They won't be playing, so that will give Iwalumo a little bit of hope. We saw Neil Dance there, who's a good goal-scoring midfield player, so they have a little hope.
You think about it, and Chelsea will have their minds on Barcelona, and you wonder what team that the manager will put out, wanting to make sure that everyone's totally and utterly fit. I mean, it's not just the players at Colchester who want to pit themselves against the great players. I mean, Phil Parkinson himself, he'll be thinking, I want to have a go at Jose Mourinho. There are some great stories in there. Pat Baldwin, who left Chelsea to go and play there. So, you know, put that all together and Chelsea will win.
When an all-London tie, Charlton versus Brentford, and Brentford with Mad Dog Allen, if I'm allowed to call him that, I'm sure he won't mind, in charge. I mean, he loves playing against the London teams. They've done well. And is this a potential upset?
Well, I don't know, but Mad Dog Allen is a big nickname and everything. And I saw him on the TV the other day, and he was saying, just because I dived into a river once, everybody thinks I'm a nutter.
I think he forgot. Did he forget the 15 years he was actually playing? I think that's where he got it from.
But I think he's done a magnificent job there. Now, had a great result last round, and they'll be hoping that they can repeat that. But you've got to say that the odds of doing it twice are fairly long.
How do you see it, Pat?
DJ Campbell isn't there anymore, and that's the difference, I think. I really do think Charlton are going to walk this one.
Stoke, Birmingham. Stoke very fortunate to go through against Tamworth, but you know they're doing okay in the championship, and Birmingham are struggling. Although you know it's a cup game, and Birmingham would be looking forward to getting away from the pressures of the league. It's a localish derby as well.
It is. It's just at the M6, isn't it? I just think now that Chris Sutton's at Birmingham, he brings so much experience and know-how and everything. I think he can make such a difference for them. They're very, very low on confidence, but people like Sutton, they breed their own confidence because they've been there, seen it and done it. And I just think the little bits of quality that Birmingham have at the moment, they'll be too good for Stoke.
Well, everybody has been talking about the FA Cup once again, even Sir Alex and people who are involved of it. I think they poo-pooed it slightly over the years gone by because obviously the Champions League was a big thing. And of course, once they didn't go and dominate the Champions League, then they said, well, the FA Cup has always had its romance. And in many respects, from a fan's point of view, it always has had.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed. I mean, maybe Manchester United showing a lot more interest in it, and the part of the reason for that is Manchester United ain't going to win anything else, you know, any of that, apart from they're both cups, they're both domestic cups. So, yeah, I think it is back. I think it has been a good cup year this year. There's been the odd upset and odd excitement. So, yeah, it's good, but I still think after the draws that we've seen here that Chelsea, odds on, we've got to expect them they're going to win it, you know.
Well, we'll have a look at the odds there, and with the three of us sitting on the panel tonight, do we need to actually say who we think are going to win the cup? Do I need to ask you two? I think we don't.
In unison?
And you don't need to ask me either.
See, of course.
And you haven't got to ask me either. So, you know.
Who do you think, John?
Come on. The
Man
Reds.
United?
The Reds. The real Reds.
So you're going for Liverpool?
But you know, it'll change.
I think Manchester United.
Depending on whether Manchester United beat Liverpool.
Manchester United, through this one, they've got half a chance.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. Thanks to Pat and Rob for joining me. Don't forget, we've got live football for you next Thursday with Bolton's second leg in Marseille, and then Football Night returns on Friday when we'll have all the latest news from the Premiership and Football League. But stay with us now as we've Boxing's Fight of the Week from the USA for you. Good night.